I'm Jason with Tomcat Properties. If you watched our last video about how to screen applicants, then this is the very next step. So you had your application process. Now your next step is onboarding your new customer, your new resident, your new tenant, whatever verbiage you like to use. Just for a minute, I will say that for us, a new tenant is a customer. We strive to provide phenomenal customer service to our customers. Our goal in the onboarding process is to provide our tenants with the tools and resources to be great tenants. Otherwise, we're just relying on the training they've learned at other places from other landlords or property management companies. So we want to train them essentially in what it takes to be a successful tenant with Tomcat Properties. All right. So think about that. What would it take for your new tenant to be successful to you? You probably explained to them, you need to pay your rent on time. This is how you do it. Some simple things, right? But let's get into really in-depth things. Let's talk about what happens if there's a water leak. What happens if there's a fire? What happens if there's an emergency? What happens if a light bulb goes out in your refrigerator? So I have a checklist and some documentation I go through that discusses all those things. And so let's just kind of jump into that. So the first step is meeting them to sign the lease to collect the deposit. So when I go, and let me just take you over here, I have this new tenant checklist, right? And the first step, there's kind of a pre-step. In my YouTube channel, you'll see something called New Tenant Orientation, and that kind of goes over the general things that I talk about in depth here, right? So it's a video, talk about all the things, but when I meet them in person, I really go in depth, specific to that house. All right. So once I know that they've watched that, I ask them to please watch it and like it so I can see that's done. Next thing I go into is take a picture of their government issued photo ID, usually driver's license, verify it's them. Then we log on to computer or a cell phone will work, where you can log on to apartments.com, electronically sign the lease. Once that's done, I'll electronically sign it with my device and then pay deposit first month's rent. Now, this is the only thing I don't collect through apartments.com. I require cash deposit of cash for first month's rent and deposit because it takes a few days for a check to clear, and I want that security knowing that, okay, I see they have the money. We've got that taken care of. All right. So the next step is review new tenant packet and rules and regulations. So let's look at the rules and regulations. And these are a work in progress. They're not perfect. I would love to hear your comments, feedback. All right. So rules and regulations. This is, again, part of my documentation in Google Drive that I attempt to keep up to date as much as possible. All right. So occupancy is limited to those on the lease agreement. All right. Someone else moves in, then I need to add them to the lease. They have to do a background check. Subleasing is not permitted. My house cannot be leased. You can't have roommates and charge them rent unless it's been agreed to. You can't Airbnb it when you go on vacation. The house is mine. Subleasing is not permitted. Business operations, unless it's been cleared previously, then you're not permitted to operate a business for many of my rental properties. Okay, I don't want a hairstylist doing hair because that's increases my liability there. I don't want anybody washing cars. I don't want work trucks parked out front. None of that stuff. So no business operation at all. All right. Contact information. Ask tenants to keep that up to date with me. Smoking is not allowed. We talked about that in the last video. It's damaging and expensive. All right. Decks, balconies, patios. All right. They must remain clear of debris, garbage, bikes, furniture, clutter, gas grills, kids' toys, all that stuff. Keep them clean. Windows coverings. All right. So you can use curtains, but no bed sheets, blankets, or other things for window coverings. No personal tenant's personal curtains, window covering cannot be visible from the outside. Damaged blinds must be replaced. All right, so I don't want a bunch of broken blinds. And there's more on this in just a minute. We'll get to it when we get to kind of like the offensive things. All right, satellite dishes, I don't want those installed on my property. Walkways, be clean and kept clear and free of debris at all times. Noise, be respectful of your neighbors. Housekeeping, clean, sanitary, regular housekeeping. Yard maintenance. All right, so keep the yard maintained, mowing and trimming. If they don't do it, I'll have to pay someone to cut it. All right, so, and tenants are not permitted to cut trees or trim trees. All right, so I don't want any trees cut down. All right, driveways and parking lots only used for vehicles. All right, parking, designated parking spots. All right, vehicles must be operational. All right, no parking on the lawn, sidewalk, or walkways. All right, vehicles will be towed. No recreational vehicles, no ATVs, campers, boats, dirt track motorcycles, trailers of any kind, food trucks. None of that is allowed. It's not a business. All right, trash and garbage receptacles. All right. In where I live, they have like those big bins that come with the trash. You pay for that, and you got to put all your bags in there. So that's pretty easy. Lockout, lost key. If you get locked out, I'll come, get you out or call locksmith. It's $35. Says no animals unless it's been agreed to. Vehicle maintenance not be conducted on the premises. Now, I'm lenient. Like if you want to change your oil, that's fine. But what I'm getting at is there should not be someone trying to run a mechanics repair shop or have cars up on blocks, things like that. Cooking, barbecue outside. Don't pour cooking grease down the drains or toilets. Right? Weapons, not allowed to have weapons, including firearms. Maintenance requests be made in writing. You can go to apartments.com and there's a walkthrough on that, on how to go to apartments.com and do a maintenance request. Plumbing, leaks, drips should be reported immediately. You and I both know if you get a leak under a drain, kitchen sink, for example, it's not a big deal unless it's been that way for 3 years and now your wood is all rotten out and you have to replace a cabinet. All right, so I ask folks to report those immediately so we can fix them. And I'll let folks know, hey, you're going to be liable for expenses, resulting in repairs from, stopping up the toilet, showers, all that stuff. All right. Vandalism, illegal activity won't be tolerated. So this is kind of a blanket statement, right? So, this is to kind of protect the landlord and the property manager to say, if you're doing something illegal, if you get convicted of something illegal, then we can end our relationship and you can move out. Roof. Tenant is never allowed on the roof at any time. Right? Don't want anyone getting hurt. I don't want anyone damaging my property. And frankly, they have no business up there. All right. Window screens. Says I'm not obligated to provide screens or windows. Screens can be provided at the tenant's expense. Most of the places that I have do have window screens in places. Inspections, routine inspections will be conducted with proper notice. All right. Guests. And this is just one of those things that, again, is meant to protect the landlord. 1 to 3 per day. Like, it's okay, birthday parties, all those things. But if you have someone that has, a lot of guests over consistently, just throwing parties, things like that, that's a problem. And that's why that's there. Other nuisances. So I heard on a podcast that this guy had a tenant who was like putting the Confederate flag in the window, and it was causing trouble in the neighborhood. So that's what this is meant to protect, right? It says you can't display anything on the house or in the yard which may be a nuisance, be offensive to protected classes, that is considered in bad taste. Tenants agree that they have read, understand, and abide by the rules, regulations, so on and so forth. There's a place to sign. Actually, this is included with the lease that's electronically signed. All right, so jumping back to the checklist, rules and regulations are done. I give the keys to the house, and if there's an outbuilding of some sort, then we give them the keys to that. Utility contact information. Each of my properties have this fact sheet, and it has the phone number for water, trash, electric, gas, internet, and this is all applicable for each one. All right. Safety. All right, so this is important. Tenants need to know where your water, gas shutoffs are. You need to know where your water and gas shutoffs are, where to turn those off in the event of an emergency. And I instruct my tenants, and I think it's in one of the videos where I say, if you smell gas, call 911. If there's a water leak, turn off the water. Show tenant where the breaker box is. Show them the breaker box, show them this is to the microwave, this is to the dishwasher, so on and so forth. Show them where the fire extinguishers are. All right, so you, as a tenant, you may have one in the laundry area, you may have one under the sink. That's generally, I usually have 2. That's where I place them. Show tenant where the smoke detectors. Explain to them, hey, you need to replace these. A good time to do it, about every 6 months. A good time to do it is when they change the time. Twice a year, just go ahead and change out the batteries. It's your responsibility to replace the batteries, and I'll show them how to do that. All right, HVAC air filters, and give them extra air filters, and I explain to them this is not only going to impact the machine, the HVAC unit themselves, but it's also going to make your bill higher if you don't replace these. So I ask them to replace those, and I show the tenant where the water heater is, and if it has any sort of settings. A lot of the water heaters today don't, but they're set at high enough, and kind of show them where they're set if that's the case. And if they notice any water issues with the water heater, they need to turn off the water. All right. So all those are safety items. Now we review the new tenant packet, and in the new tenant packet, I explain the maintenance the tenant is responsible for, how to do a maintenance request. I put in here, rent is due next, blah, 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 and I just put the date there. And then paying rent on time is important. And I'd say this in a lot of documentation in a lot of places, and I stress it to folks. And again, review the rules and regulation. I probably need to pull this out as that was done up there. And then I complete the move-in checklist. Move-in checklist is per unit, and this is you look at, this is one that I've done by hand, where it has all the fixtures and things for each room, and is custom for each house, and so on and so forth. And there it tells them at the bottom here where to note it if there are issues and things like that, and then we sign it, and that's part of the lease agreement. All right. And the last part is I give folks 3 business days to transfer the water, electric, and gas if applicable. And I do call the utility companies and verify, make sure that's transferred out of my name. All right. And, in conclusion, folks, I think that's pretty thorough, but I'd be interested to find out, what did I miss? How do you do things differently? Is there a way to make it easier? Again, I think, face-to-face conversations, best way to do it. I'd be interested if you want to watch my new tenant video. If you're a landlord, I'd love to get your feedback on that. So give me some comments. Thank you all very much. This is Jason Morris, Tomcat Properties.